The bitter, hungry wind whipping through the skeletal remains of Leningrad's buildings was a constant, gnawing presence, more invasive even than the distant, rhythmic thud of German artillery. For Captain Jake Donovan, an American intelligence operative, the cold was an enemy as formidable as any Nazi. He was a ghost in a city under siege, his presence an officially denied American secret in the heart of the Soviet Union. His mission to retrieve a sliver of critical intelligence, a piece of captured Nazi technology that the Soviets had unearthed but were suspiciously reluctant to fully share. It was late 1943. Leningrad was a city of ghosts and heroes, its people starving, frozen, yet fiercely defiant. Jake's very presence here, brokered through the highest, most secretive channels, was a testament to the desperate pragmatism of the wartime alliance. Officially, he didn't exist. Unofficially, he was a silent, unwelcome guest, navigating a labyrinth of suspicion as thick as the city's omnipresent snow. His handler, or rather, his warden, was Colonel Anya Petrovna. She was Leningrad itself, hardened, unyielding, with eyes that held the deep-seated weariness of a city under siege, yet burned with an unshakable resolve. She spoke sparse, perfect English, her voice always a low, even tone that offered no warmth. For Anya, Jake was a necessary evil, a symbol of the West's tardiness in opening a second front, and a potential conduit for unwanted Western influence in the liberated territories. Their meetings took place in a freezing, dimly lit bunker beneath the rubble of what was once a grand university building. The air was heavy with the smell of stale bread and unwashed wool. "Our engineers have examined the component," Anya stated one frigid morning, pushing a technical report across a rough-hewn table. It concerned a critical part of a new German guidance system, captured from a downed bomber. "It is, as you described, remarkable engineering." Jake leaned forward, his breath misting in the cold air, "And the schematics, the full data. Our scientists believe it could be adapted for Allied use, perhaps even saving lives if we can integrate it into our own efforts." Anya's eyes narrowed slightly. "The schematics are complex. Still under review. There are security protocols, Captain. National interests." The words national interests hung in the air, a chilling premonition of the post-war world, a world where allies might become adversaries once more. Jake knew she was stonewalling, that the Soviets intended to hoard this technology, to reverse engineer it in secret. This wasn't just about winning the war. It was about the arms race to come. The tension between them was a constant hum, a silent battle of wills over every piece of information, every strategic nuance. Jake battled not just Anya's guardedness, but the pervasive hunger, the aching cold that seeped into his bones, and the sight of skeletal figures scavenging for crumbs in the snow. He saw the resilience, but also the ruthless efficiency of a system that prioritized the collective over the individual. One night, the shelling intensified to a terrifying crescendo. A direct hit shook their bunker, sending plaster and dust raining down. The single, flickering bulb shattered, plunging them into absolute darkness. The walls groaned. Panic, thin and sharp, pierced the air. "Colonel," Jake called out, reaching blindly. "Are you hit?" He heard Anya's grunt, a strained sound, "My leg pinned." In the total black, ideological differences melted away. There was only the sound of roaring explosions, the groaning bunker, and two human beings trapped together. Jake fumbled for his small military-issue flashlight, its beam a weak lifeline in the oppressive gloom. He found Anya, a fallen beam, trapping her leg. "Hold still," he ordered, his voice raw with urgency. He braced himself, using his training, and with a surge of adrenaline, heaved the heavy timber. Anya cried out, a sharp, involuntary sound, as her leg was freed. "Thank you, Captain," she said, her voice strained, but the words held a surprising, uncharacteristic tremor of gratitude. The shared vulnerability had carved a tiny crack in her granite exterior. As they huddled together, listening to the cacophony above, Anya spoke, not about intelligence, but about her family, lost to starvation in the early days of the siege. Jake, in turn, spoke of his farm in Kansas, the simple dream of seeing it after the war. For a brief, terrifying interlude, they were simply two people, stripped of their uniforms and nationalities, clinging to life in the face of oblivion. The outclear eventually sounded, a distant, fragile wail. The light of a brutal gray dawn filtered through the cracks in the bunker ceiling. Anya, limping but resolute, returned to her stoic demeanor. The brief moment of shared humanity was over, replaced by the grim realities of their respective roles. The exchange, when it finally happened, was not complete. Jake received a meticulously prepared, but ultimately incomplete, set of data on the Nazi guidance system. He knew, and Anya knew he knew, that the Soviets were holding back crucial pieces, intending to reverse engineer the technology themselves. The ally had given him just enough to satisfy diplomatic requirements, but not enough to truly share the spoils of war. His extraction was as covert as his arrival, a clandestine journey across the frozen landscape, under the watchful eyes of Soviet patrols. As he left Leningrad, physically exhausted but intellectually invigorated, he carried with him more than just the partial data. He carried the indelible image of a city that had suffered unimaginably, and a profound, chilling understanding of his allies. Leningrad's American secret wasn't just his presence, it was the chilling truth he witnessed, that even as the world united to defeat fascism, the seeds of the Cold War were already blooming in the frozen heart of the Soviet Union. The shadow of future conflict stretched long across the very battlefields where they had stood side by side. Jake Donovan left Leningrad knowing that the war against Nazism was drawing to a close. But the true ideological battle, the silent, relentless chess game between the USA and Russia, had only just begun.